Hi, this is Rodrigo from Freelance Studio, and this is the Creative Hustler Show. Today, our guest is JP Ahonen. He's an artist from Norway, and he is the Finland. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
And he's the creator of the webcomic Belzebub, which I really love because I used to be kind of this metalhead in the past. So, welcome, JP.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, first of all, for the people who don't know about you, can you tell us a little bit more about your history and how did you get started into comic art and all that?
Yeah, okay. Well, in short, I'll try and keep it short. I went into the University of Lapland in 2000 and started studying graphic design there. And yeah, I did all sorts of random illustration and graphic design jobs while I was there. And in 2002, I was in a local newspaper in my hometown or home city of Tampere, and doing infographics and all that sort of stuff, like maps and like pie charts and illustrations, all that. And yeah, things sort of escalated there. They saw that I was doing comics for some articles and all that sort of stuff, and knew that I could draw and wanted to draw, and yeah, they basically offered me a weekly comic strip spot. So that started out in 2003 and was sort of like a threshold for my proper comics career. Basically before that, I had only been drawing for myself, hoping that maybe one day I could do this for a living, but didn't really trust myself or trust the Finnish scene that it would actually be possible for me to make a living out of it. So yeah, that's basically that. After starting out that weekly comic strip, which is still going on in the newspaper, I've been doing freelance illustration jobs for magazines, newspapers, advertising, school books, all that sort of stuff. So quite a lot of different illustration gigs.
Nice. And how is the art industry over there in Scandinavia, in Finland specific? Because I think most people also, like, when they talk about art industry, they think obviously Los Angeles, California, France, a bit of London, but there are many opportunities in many other countries. For example, I met some really good animators in Bulgaria and also in Sweden when I was there for a couple of months. How is the creative industry over there in Finland?
Well, it's really varied. I mean, there's a lot of like this indie small press stuff going on, which is cool, and people are really bold in pushing their own stuff and their own voice, which is I think it's a good thing. So they're not locked in this specific superhero genre only or whatever. So there are very all sorts of comics out there, and also really nice varied like palettes of different styles in illustration as well. So I don't know, I can only speak for Finland, I guess, since I'm not that familiar with the other Scandinavian countries, but there's a sort of there are these like larger names or bigger names that do mostly commercial or advertising work, I guess. And then there are the other guys who do comics and like small press stuff, I guess.
Yeah, the first comic that I found coming from Scandinavia was probably you've seen it already. Nemi Montoya. Is like, yeah, is like a well, pretty much a rocker girl.
Yes.
So that was like the first taste that I found from art of Scandinavia. Then I found this guy who created this animation, The Reward, in Denmark, and since there, pretty much I started seeing like a lot of these really amazing art pieces being in animation or comics, but obviously, as you say, like there is more famous things like the Euros and all that, but this is like a completely new genre, which is like really great. For example, I see Belzebubs and I was laughing. I pretty much spent hours reading those comics and then share it to my friends, and they spent hours as well, and we were all laughing our ass off because when I was in school, we got the hang of some metal bands from Norway, Finland, and pretty much my whole prom was like a group of metalheads, with the leather coats and leaving our hair like really long and spikes and all
I used
that.
to have long hair as well, but now things change.
Like it was funny because we at one point I was like an IT technician, like seeing these companies, and you will see us like really formal because we had to go like a lot of corporate companies to give maintenance to a computer, and then I found inside this company another guy who was kind of a bigger level than me inside the company, and so he was like with the suit, tie, and all like all really dress up, and he was like a huge metalhead as well, and we started like talking, and he was telling me like, I had like this long hair and like with the spikes, and now look at me with this. And people like see me dressed like this now, and they will never guess that when I'm in home I'm putting like big metal all volume up.
Yeah, but that's so great about music. I mean, it really brings people together. It doesn't really matter what you look like and what your hobby or profession is. I mean, music to me is the greatest art form.
Definitely. And how did you get this idea of doing Belzebubs? Like, where did this came from?
Back in 2011 to 2013, I was working on this graphic novel called Perkeros, or Signal Evil in English. It was published by Abrams Comic Arts in the States, so you'll be able to find that as well. And that's like revolved around a metal band as well. But it was, although it was this humorous action sort of graphic novel, it had like deeper themes and all that sort of stuff. Those sorts of elements in the story. And those few years were a bit rough for me because prior to making the graphic novel, I did all possible freelance gigs I could get. So I'd have enough financial buffer to be able to put all those on hold and focus on the graphic novel. So I was basically at like a burnout state when I started doing my 200-page, like huge book. And well, there are numerous things that sort of went down. during those few years, but in 2014, 2015, I was pretty much in a slump. Like I was still doing work, but I could feel that I'm completely burnt out, and that sort of mentality was really difficult to break out of. And I still think I'm partly clawing my way out of that that mindset. But anyhow, for some reason, I thought that I need another project, something that is loose and raw and like fast to draw, and just so I could like kickstart my motor again and just draw something, get it out there, like minimize all sort of over analyzing and all that sort of stuff. And for some reason, the first like doodle I did was this corpse painted black metal guy, possibly because I was fooling around with those sort of themes with Sing No Evil as well. So it was like a, I don't know, a natural progression from doing a meticulously thought metal graphic novel and then doing something really completely silly in black and white that's just like thrown out there. And yeah, in 2015, I did a few of these strips or one panel gags for Inktober, the Inktober challenge, and wasn't able to finish that, unfortunately. But I got so much like kind feedback that I felt it really resonated with people. So I thought that, okay, well, I'll list a few ideas down, and then when the time is ripe, I'll just start flooding them online and all that. So I think it was 2016 September or something, I started like pushing them out online. So now it's been a little over a year now. So it's fairly young still.
Gain speed and acceptance. Like we are in El Salvador, in Central America, like all the other side of the world. People here don't even. Many people here don't even speak English, and you got fans here. Like there are people who really love your comic over here, including me.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like I never thought that I could gain such a wide audience by pushing out something as simple and basically silly as Belzebubs, and suddenly I have people ordering tattoos from Guatemala and like people writing me or drawing me fan art from Argentina and like all sorts of like weird places that I wouldn't actually think that I'd be able to push my stuff out there.
And when you see people trying to start like a comic, this same type of comic, what would you say? And this question goes because I got a couple of friends who want to do something similar, and right now they are still trying to think of the characters and pretty much all that. What do you think is a common mistake that most people do when trying to start something like this, that they are not aware that is a mistake and they are doing a lot?
Like a weekly comic or a longer story, or
like a weekly comic or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing is that you need to have a lot of ideas, like sets up, or that you need to have characters that you know that when you hit like strip number 88, that you can still squeeze something out. So it's like having 12 to 24 strip ideas isn't basically enough. And well, I don't have that much of a buffer myself, so I'm kind of winging it and improvising all the time. But anyhow, I've been doing weekly comic strips for 15 years now, so I've sort of grown into that. I've come accustomed to the feeling of being almost in a panic-like state each week, that okay, I need to come up with this idea now and all that. So I'm each week I'm screwed. But anyhow, it's a nice feeling that when you're able to deliver that, okay, yeah, I had it in me and all that. So it gives you a little adrenaline rush. But yeah, I think, yeah, that might be one thing to keep in mind when you're starting something out. The other is, of course, that do you have characters that resonate with people, and have, like, do the characters have character? You know, are they people you can relate to in a way, or feel that, okay, yeah, I know that person in real life and all that. So they need to have some sort of structure or meat around the bones that you can feel relate to them anyhow. And what else? Possibly one thing is that everything takes more time than you expect. So that's one big issue I think that you need to keep in mind when doing, like, anything creative, and especially when you're both script writing the stuff and drawing and executing and publishing and yada yada yada.
Yeah, this is something that over the tech industry there is this concept called the 10x concept, and most people misunderstand that because they usually think about, for example, money. That if your goal is doing, I don't know, $1,000 a week, then 10x that, right? So, but is that if you think that something is going to take, let's say, 3 months, 10, and that now you have time frame, and that is something that even Google uses when, like, okay,
Yeah.
how much work is this going to take, and then they come up with a number and then multiply it. But now,
Yeah.
is
Now
this
you're
work?
getting close.
Yeah, and that's when they think of it. Like, if we put 10 times the work and time and all that, at the end will be worth doing this. And if they say yes, then they do it.
Yeah.
Also, what is something that you didn't expect at all when you started doing comics that became true and is really important in your career?
Well, as a positive, unexpected thing, I'd have to list social media, basically, because when I started out doing the weekly comic strip for the magazine, that was basically, of course, you had like online forums and that sort of stuff, which was great. I used to be part of this flight anthology crew. We published 8 volumes of anthologies, and our forum was, I think, was really beneficial to a lot of creators there, because we really picked apart each other's stories and tried to give our best input into being true to the creator's vision, but anyhow trying to see if there's something that needs to be cut out or modified or whatever. And I mean, a lot of like contemporary like big names that are doing graphic novels, Kazuki Boishi and Vera Broskol and Raina Telgemeier and Becky Clunan and all those sorts of names have been part of the Flight Anthology crew, which is Tony Cliff, and you get the idea. Anyhow, and yeah, so I think that social media plus the forums have been a positive. Well, they've had a positive impact on at least my doing, because you can like improve on your own to a certain extent, but if you don't like break out of the studio, you're just like doing and creating all by yourself and don't show the work to anyone, then you might either lose focus or don't know where to proceed when you're in a jam. So I think that's been beneficial. And besides getting feedback and all that sort of stuff, I think just as a means of publishing your own stuff. I mean, now you can do it on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, Tumblr, and gain an audience from, well, globally. So I think that's something I didn't expect when I was starting out doing my weekly comic strip, and certainly something I wasn't expecting when I was a teenager, like doodling my improvised longer graphic novels and like just fantasizing of pitching them to companies like Dark Horse or Vertigo or whatever. So and suddenly, yeah, now because you have the internet and you have access to like people all over the world, basically, then suddenly everything comes so much closer. It's not impossible to run these sorts of ideas from Finland, for example.
Nice. On the other hand, what is something that you completely expected to be true that is important and did happen?
Well, I know. Maybe that people that things should be proceeded like story first, and that people want like characters and stories and situations, like scenes where they can relate to characters, and yeah, I think that's something that was pretty obvious from the start. But yeah, other than that, I think I've been climbing like a tree, my ass first. So everything's been kind of unexpected for me, even though I try to analyze and think about what is happening and what I should be doing quite a bit. But anyhow, yeah.
Nice. Is there like a failure or a perceived failure that you went through that led to a major success in the future?
No, I can list a lot of failures, yes, but I don't know if they've turned out to be successes. But yeah, basically some of the things that I feel I haven't succeeded in with, for example, with Sing No Evil, they're suddenly becoming a reality and a possibility with Belzebubs, for example. So I try and keep an open mind in that sense, that I don't have, nothing should be that sacred that you couldn't like sacrifice it for a different project or to be cut out completely. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but but For example, I've used some ideas for Beelzebubs that I'd been keeping like years and years for Sing No Evil, for example, the second book of Sing No Evil. But since like an opportunity presents itself, I feel that okay, well, I'll start pushing this now, and I believe that eventually, hopefully, at least, I'll get better ideas like later on. So if I have this idea now, I shouldn't like just sit back and keep it all by myself. I should like see if it fits into the project at hand and just like push it forward.
Awesome. So, what advice would you give to somebody who is an artist, maybe a student, who is driven, who has like the motivation and the dedication, the hard work and all that, that is about to enter the real work, like the real world? And what advice would you give to them? And also, what do you think is an advice that they should ignore?
Okay, yeah. Run, you fools. No. Yeah, just bear in mind that everything will take more time than expected, and by the time when you're juggling like a family and getting enough income and your artistic personal endeavors and all that, it starts to become not a nightmare but a real challenge, because you're juggling so many balls and like trying to keep everything afloat. And well, I personally, at least, I don't want to be that dad who is always working and all that. So I try and make my self available and be one of those dads who is at home as well. But that means I'll need to try and make up like lost work time during the nights and whatever. So I might be just pretty tired most throughout the week. But so yeah, time especially is one thing, and the other is if I think about people who are starting out, I'd say to not be afraid to kill your darlings in a way, because I see a lot of projects or books or let's call them projects where you can see that okay, this is something that the artist or writer, creator, whomever has had since he was 13 or something. So it's like a sacred idea and vision for him or herself, but it's something that you need to like basically scrap and build a new project on top of that, because I don't know, well, at least I've never been a child prodigy that I would have had amazing ideas when I was in my teens or something. I mean, I would have been completely fucked if I would have stuck to those ideas that I had back then and tried my best to push them forward, because yeah, I've certainly used elements and everything that I've learned like during those years when I've been able to focus only on improving like my artwork or story writing or all that stuff. I think all that hasn't gone to waste in any sense. It's just evolved into something new.
Awesome. And talking about what you just say, that this moment where you're tired because you have to juggle your family, work, and all this, I assume that there are moments that where you feel like overwhelmed or unfocused. what do you do to get back to your center and pretty much to get working and to
Mm.
to get to a stable place?
Yeah, that is a good question. I'd like to know myself as well. Um, Exercise is one. It's key, and unfortunately, I'm not exercising as much as I should be. But I noticed that when I got into this sort of good flow, that I was at work and I went to the gym or running or something like that, and went home, everything was in balance because you got enough enough done at work, and then you like recovered at the gym, or in a way you just left your uh, work stress at the studio, basically, because you went and ran around the city or whatever. So I think that was a healthy balance, to exercise enough and all that. I think the weekly deadlines help out a lot because, for example, the newspaper strip, it has to be delivered by that specific day each week, so you can't lose focus that much that that you'd leave it to the absolute last minute and possibly not turn it over. So luckily, I have to knock on wood. Luckily, in my 15 years, there's never been a case that I would have missed the deadline with the weekly strip. And yeah, it's hard. I mean, some of my friends, they meditate before coming to work or something. I feel that I don't have time to meditate or something. I don't know. I should try that, but I'd much rather, I don't know, have a coffee and fool around with a guitar at the studio kitchen or something like that, and like get my mind off the work and stress for a bit, and sort of like make my mind believe that, yeah, everything's fine, everything's cool, you have enough time, even though like the world is burning and you're like like late as hell and all that. But yeah, the mind is a powerful tool.
Something that I have done in the past that just came to my mind because there is this book, new book called Tribe of Mentors, where pretty much like is kind of an interviews to the top performers in the world, billionaires and all that.
Hmm.
And something that came caught my mind that it came common many times is that many chose like a song and put it on auto repeat and pretty much listening to the same song over and over again,
Oh
and
yeah,
that gain
yeah.
help them gain focus. And I do something like that with metal as well. Like I have a couple. For example, there is this. It's funny because my friends use like uh, they don't understand how that can relax me.
Oh yeah,
Is one from Dimmu Borgir. It's
yeah.
called from the album Stormblast. Let me. It's called Entrance. And
Yeah,
there is
yeah,
something about that song that just relaxes the fuck out of me. And
yeah,
I put it on repeat, like when I'm really
yeah,
stressed, I just listen. It's like, oh yeah, it
yeah,
starts
yeah,
to have some
yeah.
effect on me. and and obviously it's black metal, so many of my friends do not share the.
Share the passion. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly, but
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
at least that works for me as well. Like that is one of the songs that helps me relax.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, now that you mention music, obviously is something that plays a big role. There was a time when I tried to sort of find a good soundtrack for each scene or idea that I was working on. But I noticed that it didn't work at all because for example, if my mind was in a, I don't know, in a different mindset, and I'd put on jazz or something, I'd get really like drowsy. That okay, yeah, it's fine. I have time and everything, even though I'd like be really tight on some deadline or schedule. So now I try and always find a good soundtrack or a playlist or mood that gets my mojo going, like that I get really pumped and hyped. And it might vary from like heavy metal to electronica to, well, not trance, but anyhow, like some electronic music anyhow, like for example bonobo or this sort of breakbeat stuff or something. And yeah, there have been numerous times I've been illustrating, for example, school books for kids, for like 12-year-olds, and I'm drawing these smiling, happy kids and listening to Pantera or Sepultura or whatever, like really, really aggressive music, and I'm drawing these happy, smiling kids. And yeah, there's a contrast, but anyhow, it doesn't like. I don't think the aggressive energy pours into my work because I listen to like aggressive music. I just get like I get into my happy place, which is which is weird, but so it works. I can't remember who said that miserable music makes them happy and happy music makes them miserable, but I totally agree on this. Like I can't listen to reggae because it's too loose.
Yeah, definitely. Again, like there are many songs that relaxes me. It makes me so happy that when people hears that, they go like, "Are you insane?" And I even remember these times when I was younger, man. Else that comes, don't you know what they are saying? Like if you put them on backwards, like, do you have any idea what they are saying now? Like, like what they are actually saying in the song.
Yeah. That's what the CD leaflets are for. You can like, oh, wow, so these are the lyrics.
Exactly. Also on this topic, you just mentioned this issue of having the deadline, right? And I see people who create either who are writers or who create comics that talk about writer's block. And it's funny that you mentioned it now that this thing, because one of my favorite writers, Neil Strauss, he says that there is no such things as writer's block, which gets a lot of hate for. But this guy first started like as a columnist in the New York Times, I think.
Yeah.
So over there, it's like you cannot call writer's block. Like you have to write an article, and you have a date, and you have this deadline, and you have to make it. And if you go like something, oh yeah, like the creative juices are not flowing or something like that, your editor will pretty much grind you and be brutal to you, like, oh, the little princess needs his creative choices. Like, go fuck yourself. Go finish this shit up. Like, and there is no writer's block there. So, and in this case, I think you are in the same position. Like, it is a weekly thing that you have to create something weekly. So can you tell me more about your creative process to pretty much ideas every week?
Yeah. It depends on what I'm doing. Right now, I basically have 2 weekly deadlines with the Finnish weekly newspaper strip and Belzebubs. And well, basically, I have these very simple notes in my sketchbook or sketchbooks, like really randomly placed everywhere, where yes, I myself, yep, like, why do I have so many? But yeah, they might sometimes help, that you can like plow through the old ideas and see, okay, well, this might fit in this week, and I'll fool around with this idea. Sometimes they might not, so you're basically back to zero. And basically with Beelzebubs, there's single like scenes or gags which need to work on their own, but there is like a storyline evolving, so that sort of helps in improvising something that, okay, well, what needs to happen next, where do the characters evolve and all that stuff. So you get these natural clues, or like a natural push to a certain like certain way or path, that, okay, well, this might be an approach for this week's strip. Like, for example, if the band is going on tour, okay, well, do they pack the tour bus, or are they already at the gig place, and who are playing with them, and are they setting up the guitars and the instruments, or like, you get all these sorts of like scenarios in your head, and then you can start fooling around with, okay, what are they talking about? Are they talking about the gig, or are they discussing something off topic? Like, they might be unpacking the tour bus, but talking about, for example, their kids or something completely different. And yeah, that's basically how, for example, Beelzebubs rolls. And when I get a sort of idea locked down, that, okay, well, now I'm doing a Christmas strip or something, then I start like basically mindstorming about different things that I might be able to include in the strip. For example, wordplay or visual clues or hints and jokes, and all that sort of stuff. So usually I have like a very simple outline, and then I throw in a lot of different ingredients and like compress it into something that well, looks what it looks each week. I think the most tedious and time-consuming project was when I was doing these political satire comic strips for 4 years, and that came out at first 15 times a year, and that was a pretty tight schedule to be fitted in between like all the other projects that I was handling at the moment. And those were strips that you really couldn't like plan ahead. For example, okay, well, I just finished this strip, but you don't have like a frigging magic ball you can like look into and see that, okay, well, tell the future, okay, what's happening in 4 weeks or something. So usually I'd need to cut it really close to the deadline and gather all sorts of like news articles and figure out what's been going on, and what are things that I could actually write about and know enough about. And yeah, that project had besides being a contemporary political satire, it had these anthropomorphic animals. So that was another layer that sort of made it more difficult for me, because if I had a politician, I needed to figure out, okay, which animal should it be, and then on top of that, try and make the animal look like the politician, for example. So they needed to be recognizable. and all that. And yeah, that project ended up taking way too much time because I was pouring in ideas from wordplay and like color symbolism and referencing to pop culture and blah blah blah. It was like I feel that I was just pouring stuff into a meat grinder and then like squeezing out a strip. But yeah, that was my approach for that project. It's not by any means a very clever and intelligent solution, but yeah, I tested that out.
And something that happened as well, like when in the US, like Trump was elected, like I started seeing all my friends who were doing like political satire very happy because it's like we are going to have a lot of work for the next 4 years.
Yeah, yeah, I guess, yeah. But that's one thing. And when I noticed when I was publishing, doing that political satire for a periodical magazine, that I needed to find something new that would like still be fresh in a week, because I'd send the cartoon or comic strip into the newspaper or magazine, and it would take over a week to be published. And I mean, a week is a long period in especially the social media world, because when something crazy happens, people are making memes and like being political cartoonists just all by themselves as well. So there might be a lot of like fun, good ideas that already people have used up by the time that your strip comes out, and you're like, well, I had these first. But yeah, so that's partly why I try to pour as much material into the comics as possible, so that there'd still be like a weird storyline and these Easter eggs you could like find from them.
Is there any last advice that you would like to give young artists that we haven't talked yet into this interview?
Basically, now that you mentioned the writer's block, I think that's one issue, that try and attack your works from all sorts of different like angles. I think that's one good method of getting over writer's block. I remember when I was working on Sing No Evil, and I felt that, okay, this is not progressing at all, that I'm stuck. I tried like numerous different like methods. Somewhere just as simple as mind maps, and somewhere just, for example, things like breaking the story up into little post-it notes and seeing if like rearranging some of the scenes would help, and just writing the scenes down and sort of like explaining them to yourself that, okay, this is the scene where the protagonist finds out this and this or whatever. You'll quickly realize if it's a scene that you need to keep in the first place. If you feel that, okay, well, this doesn't benefit the story or push it forward, then throw it out and all that. And yeah, just view it from different angles, I guess, and don't be scared to chop something out, because you might be able to put it back in a completely other place or project later on.
Nice. If people want to find you online, where will be the best place to do so?
Well, my website for one, jpahonen.com. I'm on Instagram with just JP Ahonen, And Belzebubs Official is the Facebook page. You'll find me pushing out new material there each week. And yeah, I think those are the three key sites that you might be interested in checking out.
Nice. Thanks a lot for giving us your time. I know that you're very busy and
no worries. Thank you.
And it's late, so thank you so much for being here and giving us your advice.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure. Cheers.
This has been the last episode of the Creative Hustler Show. If you like it, please click the like button below and also share it with your friends.